Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Dungeon About. This is an episode I've been looking forward to for quite a while now because we finally sat down to discuss INDIKA, the new game by Oddmeter Games, where you play as a nun that leaves her monastery. The INDIKA discussion has some light spoilers, but I believe nothing too bad. Later in the podcast, we talk about old school RPG Gothic 1 a little bit more, and also a little bit about the new remake that's been announced for the game. So without further delay, I hope you'll enjoy this episode of A Dungeon About. Vincent,
Yes.
I want to talk about INDIKA. We played INDIKA.
Do we have too much?
Just a little bit, just to put a ribbon on it. I know we've said
Okay,
most things already, but now I had a week to sleep on it, and you did as well. And I want to hear if you have any more thoughts. And I also do think that it is fair to say that this is the best anti-nun simulator that is currently out there and available on Steam.
Anti-Nun
Yes.
simulator.
I did not come up with this. I've heard it refer, at least not as a simulator, but I've heard people refer to her as an anti-nun, and I think that's fair to say. That's accurate. Do you know what I mean? Because she doesn't actually like being a nun.
Yeah, that's my question. Is it that she doesn't like being a nun but still is one? Or is she the antithesis of a nun?
Okay, before we get into that, let me briefly say what INDIKA is and stuff, because this is at least theoretically a podcast. So INDIKA is a game by Oddmeter
Hi there,
Games.
I'm Rufus, product management lead.
sorry.
There we hear them.
That's
That's the
the
Steam
trailer,
page that starts playing automatically. It's published by 11-Bit Studios, and we played it. You can watch it on at least right now on our Uncut channel. At some point later, we'll also have a nice video for it, I think. In the game you play a nun. It's a puzzle adventure game where you play as a nun, and I think it is non-spoilery to say that she leaves the monastery and has to do some stuff in the real world, and it all sort of is very difficult for her because she is constantly under the sway of the voice of the devil, I guess. That's pretty obvious from even the trailer, I think. And is, for some reason that's not completely explained, although it's heavily hinted at, she is suffering from constant mental, at least hallucinations, if not delusions. And, is a little bit out of it. And everyone sort of hates her, and she kind of hates being a nun.
Yes.
And that's kind of INDIKA, and then you just sort of follow the story, and occasionally you solve puzzles. And we did, and it lasted for about 5 hours, and I enjoyed it a lot. It made me feel stuff. And I thought it was just such a weird game to exist and to work, right? Yeah. And regarding the anti-nun stuff, I mean, I think she's an anti-nun in the sense that she's just really bad at being a nun, and she doesn't like being a nun. But she's also, right, she has these philosophical ideas and stuff. That's why she's not. It's different. Being an anti-nun is different from just not being a nun, right? You and I are not nuns.
That is
We're
correct,
not
yes.
anti-nuns. That is not fair to say. Being an anti-nun is more of a nun than a not nun, if that makes any sense. Anyway.
Yeah, yes.
But-
I mean, kind of. I mean, for some reason, anti-anything makes me think of, because my mind is in an RPG space, makes me think of anti-something grenades. So I'm thinking of
Like
anti-nun grenades.
Oh, that's great. That will be the title for my game, which I will create. Because, actually, to what you just said, being into RPGs, I am as well. I was sort of into INDIKA from the advertising because I thought it would have RPG mechanics and leveling and stuff. And without spoiling too much, I do think there is a little bit of false advertising going on there. As I said, I think it's a puzzle adventure game, which is a fine thing to be. And I also, I don't actually think it's false advertising. They get away with it, right? Because that's
It's on
kind of the
purpose.
whole point.
Yeah.
It's on purpose, and it's part of the whole effect that the game has on you.
Yeah.
And it's woven, I think, skillfully into the storyline and the themes that they're exploring. So that's fine. But it means that I still don't have my dope nun simulator RPG with bespoke nun mechanics or monk mechanics. It's not actually just about nuns. It's just, contemplatives who are in a sort of secured environment getting sent out into the real world. It's also, by the way, it's a stunning looking game, apparently. That's weird for me to say, but I just believe what Vincent said, and also it just has very high production values, which I just found surprising. Honestly, I'm going to say this, I don't know, call me a bigot, but the studio, as far as I can tell, is from Kazakhstan, and it's just how it is. When I hear Kazakhstan, I don't immediately associate that with high quality. That's just how it is. And, I associate, that's just me, blame me if you want. But when I hear Kazakhstan, I think Borat, right? That is my one association with Kazakhstan. And I just don't, but the game, it's not that, right? I think it's really high quality. Also, I looked into it. It's apparently, as far as I can tell, it's the Unreal 4 engine, because we were wondering about that.
Yeah.
And I guess it kind of makes sense. It did. There's a patch right now. I think they may have fixed it. It was a bit unoptimized when we played it.
Yeah, we had some stuttering issues that it didn't really matter what, or at least it didn't seem to matter what kind of settings we played the game at. There were at certain moments just stuttering issues.
Yeah, very low FPS. Very much a case of biting off a little bit more than you can chew, maybe, graphics engine wise, but maybe they fixed it now. I don't know. It wasn't game breaking.
Don Solarione, originally they are from Russia, but had to leave.
Oh, that kind of makes sense. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. I like them more and more. I'll definitely be watching what they're doing, and I would 100% play an INDIKA 2, whether they continue the characters or not. Just in this style, very interesting. And there are two things I wanted to bring up that I sort of thought about during the week, Vincent. Number one is I just really found that super interesting how they use these weird segments. They do this in the game, right? It's normally you play the game, it's just third-person perspective, and it's just 3D in a sort of realistic environment. And then you have flashbacks and stuff into sort of arcadey video game segments. And Vincent had to play these, and he struggled through. Like, they had played some version of Frogger or whatever.
Yeah, they on the Steam page where I'm currently looking at pictures, they have this moment of jumping from frog to frog, and it was a rhythm game, and I am terrible at these. So.
Yeah, but I mean, you did, admirably well.
I think it wasn't that hard. I made it hard for myself.
Sure, but I just found that interesting though, just to use that sort of retro aesthetic because they always did it when there was flashbacks, and there's just this sort of equivalence between that is in the past of our video game sort of real world history, and we now use that as this is in the past of the character. I find that very interesting. Not sure if I've seen that elsewhere. And I also, and this is a separate way, they I think also use these arcadey mechanics, and that's almost more interesting. I think that very consistently these arcadey sort of flashy exploding mechanics are used to signify an increase in delusion or psychosis in the character of INDIKA herself. And especially they use it for trauma, right? There's without spoiling too much, I think you can talk about this without saying what it is specifically, but when you play, you eventually learn sort of why INDIKA is in the monastery and stuff, and some stuff in her past that happened that I think traumatized her a lot. And the moment that gets revealed, it's like, literally everything explodes into coins and stuff. And then it's just like, haha, fun game. Now you have to collect the coins and stuff. And that's, I feel like that's a way to sort of paper over the actual trauma, right? You know how, when people have bad stuff in their life, like that they can't even quite remember correctly because it was so traumatic, the memory doesn't even get saved as a coherent thing. It can, that's the whole Freudian thing. It can come up through like metaphor and like other sort of little signals that the unconscious sends to you.
It's less that the memory isn't saved, it's more that the brain doesn't allow you access to it, but only in certain moments.
It comes up in a sort of warped way sometimes, or through code, and I feel like they did that with the code was the retro mechanics and stuff, right? That's how her trauma sort of comes to her consciousness. And I just thought that's kind of a really cool thing to do that I haven't seen before. I generally really like when video games, I wish they would do this more, when they sort of explore mental illness and stuff, because I think the medium is very well suited to do that.
Oh yeah,
right? Because you can put a person into a situation, and sometimes you need that to understand why, I don't know, suffering from schizophrenia is difficult or whatever. And in this game, I think that sort of happens, and it is sometimes difficult to navigate the huge cow that's suddenly in front of you for no reason.
Yeah. I forgot about
it had lots of good stuff like that.
So wild.
Yeah. And I guess other games that could sort of do this that come to my mind is like Hellblade, right? That's famous for having a sort of mentally ill protagonist, and you having to navigate that.
Hearing voices, and the character, yes.
And not in a stupid way too. That game is still high on my list of stuff I want to play, but okay, list is long.
I also as a not necessarily an example for mental illness, but after playing INDIKA here, I thought of similar games, and one that came up, and we talked briefly about it, was Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons.
Yeah.
And there's huge spoilers for Brothers, so if you haven't played it, go
Who
play
the
it.
fuck are you then?
It's fine.
Yeah.
But there's a moment towards the end of the game where you usually play both brothers, so there are two characters that you simultaneously play with like both sticks of your controller. Either controls one of the brothers, and you have two interaction buttons, one for each of the brothers. And towards the end of the game, one of the brothers dies, and then you have a moment where, as the younger brother, you have to do something that only the older brother could do at that time.
And you need both sticks at some point, right? Wasn't it on a raft to like paddle or something?
He can't swim, and you need to swim over like a small pond, basically. And how you used to do that is by riding on the back of the older brother.
So funny. It gives me chills right now to think about it.
It's so good. And how do you eventually figure it out? How do you cross the water?
Yeah.
Well, you act as this younger brother, but use the interaction button of the older brother. And so he finds the strength that his brother left him, basically, in himself. And this is just a counter example of this.
No, it's a wonderful example.
It's not only mental illness, but also moments of...
It's grief, right? That's what that is about. It's the grieving process. You've lost your brother. You're grieving for it. And then...
But also personal growth.
That's what I mean. But when you complete the grieving process, that I would say often has growth involved in it, right? And that's what happens. That's exactly what you were describing, right? You learn that you feel the lack of something, but then you have to fill that yourself by developing your capabilities. To me, that's almost, this is a weird, dumb, cliche thing to say, but that's kind of that brothers thing with the dumb sticks and so. That's almost my Citizen Kane moment for video games. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Even though it's I feel it's not as well known as it should be. But it's, if I want to explain to normal people, not like nerds like us, but like normal people out there with whom I seldom interact, but sometimes do, and I want to explain, if conversation comes to that, right? And I want to explain why do I care about video games, and how can mechanics and story interact? That's the example I go to, because it's so, it distills it down to the essentials, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, same for me. It's like the main example of exactly this for me.
Yeah.
And also, if I'm allowed to be a bit negative for a second.
No, sorry.
They released a co-op version of the Brothers Tale of Two Sons.
So what happens then? The other one doesn't die?
The other one dies, but you're still two players, and the other one still has to press their button.
Oh.
So they don't mirror what happens on the screen in the players as well.
Well,
which is just...
Gotta make money somehow. I guess that's video games as well.
It's just, I'm not a fan.
I
get that makes complete sense that this is something people would do.
Well, yeah, and they want to play it on the couch, right?
Yeah.
I wish they would just be rough and kill the other player. I mean, not the actual player, but not that rough.
No, they can't be rough. When you buy it, you have to give them your address.
The player character.
Yeah, and then while you're playing, there's a SWAT team waiting outside.
Yeah, there's a sniper. The other player can literally see the red dot on your face.
Yeah, so we were talking about grim games earlier.
Yeah. The video game experience of your lifetime.
Yeah, at the end of your life.
Brothers. Want to really make you feel the grief, you know? You got to crack some eggs to make an omelet, you know?
4-dimensional video game.
Yeah. Anyway, I like that part in INDIKA. The whole, that I feel is a cool thing. I could see other games picking that up, using that as code, like that whole retro aesthetic. The other thing, I don't have a fully formed thought about this. It's just something that's I've been pondering. Is what's the point of the puzzles? Do you think? I mean that in the broadest sense possible. Like, why even have puzzles in there? Not that I don't like it. I'm literally asking why. Like, I mean, you could just say, well, because it's fun and we liked it. Okay, I mean, that's an answer, but can we do better? Like, do they add something to the experience?
That's a good question. I was thinking sort of the same in regards to difficulty. Because towards the end of the game, there was a rather difficult...
The construction puzzle? No, you mean the mirror puzzle.
The mirror puzzle.
Yeah.
Which I struggled with, which is, apart from the construction puzzle, the only one that I really struggled with. And though doing a puzzle on stream while people are watching you is kind of stressful.
Sure.
That was, I think, for me, the gameplay moment that I enjoyed by far the most. Just this really complex, multi-dimensional puzzle.
They did it well then, because that was the last puzzle, right? It was like the end boss puzzle.
Yeah, I think so. And so I've been thinking, why did I enjoy that so much, and why didn't I enjoy the others quite as much?
I think. Do you know? Do you have an answer? I can venture a guess.
Yeah, I think it's just difficulty. Most of the other puzzles I went through pretty quickly, or if it took long, then the reason was either that, like, there was an elevator puzzle that I figured out the solution really quickly.
Yeah.
The game just didn't let me do that because
public service announcement for all of you: if you want to play INDIKA, just keep trying to climb ledges. Like, sometimes it'll work and sometimes not. And
if it feels like it should work, just run against
keep trying.
the ledge for as long as it takes.
Yeah. Secret mini boss in INDIKA ledges. Yes. But yeah, I think you may have enjoyed it so much because it was so stressful, and you succeeded at it. And
possibly.
It releases a lot of dopamine.
Yeah.
And that is the diagnosis of Dr. Marius. There you go.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll be back next week.
Cleared it up. Yes.
Yeah, and then the others were fine, but they were, they didn't really stop or interrupt the game. No,
it was paced excellently, right?
Yeah.
I have no problems with the puzzles in themselves. I'm just wondering, okay, what happened? It's just me sort of thinking about game design and what effect do different things have. Like, if you change the puzzles to like Doom-style shooting sequences, like where you throw Bibles at demons, how would it feel then?
Imagine INDIKA with the Doom soundtrack.
It's
just
awesome.
For tiny moments. Oh my God.
It does do that sometimes.
I know, but I want more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just something I think about, and I do. Of course, I am now going to answer my own question. At least this is my best take on it, right? Because I think they do add one thing, which is that I think they make the whole philosophical wanking part of the game possible. Do you know what I mean? Because it does have this, like, obviously INDIKA wants to tackle some sort of theological, spiritual themes, and they do this genuinely. I think so. And I also think they do it pretty well and excellently for a video game, probably. And, you know, you get these questions of, you know, just as an example, like for one segment of the game, the entire theme will be, is faith like, is it done through works? Do you have to become active? Or is it something that you just sort of happens through the grace of God? You know, which, that's a commonly explored and discussed religious theme. And they will like, you know, put stuff in the game like little sort of lore tidbits that you can find, little story bits that sort of relate to that. And then just INDIKA and her sort of buddy, spoilers, will have sort of a discussion, like a very overt philosophical discussion about that, right? And I think that if you just were to take those discussions and played them to people, or you just write it down or whatever, it wouldn't be... let's just say it wouldn't keep your attention. Do you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't necessarily enjoy that very much. And I suspect that it's like the whole gameplay sequences in between, you know, pacing that, stretching that out a little bit, getting your mind to engage with something else, something a bit more logical and stuff. I think that makes that whole ponderous stuff much more palatable.
Yeah.
Right?
I 100% agree.
Because, but it's interesting to me as well, because as I said, I think, okay, even if that stuff is well written, if you're writing a book or you have a show or whatever, you need to like stretch that out way more before people will be willing to accept that kind of stuff, right? Especially if it's like novel thoughts, right?
Yeah.
It's also, and this also with the whole psychosis and all the weird big cows and big fishes and stuff. Like the surrealists did this. Like they had their whole, you know, with the like the pipe and stuff, and like the burning giraffes and so on. They had this whole idea that in order to get the human mind to accept new ways of looking at things, you have to sort of shock it into being open, and that's the whole. That's one point of the burning giraffe, I guess, because it's look at how weird this is, and now you will agree with communism. I think that was the idea. I don't know. I don't think Dali was a communist, but whatever. It's just that's just something I took from this idea that the maybe seemingly arbitrary puzzles that video games throw at you may have the same or a similar effect as like the burning giraffe, right? To sort of prepare your mind into being more open for novel ideas.
Yeah,
because it's a 5-hour game and it's like it's a lot of like you know, wanking philosophical religious stuff stuffed in there.
Yeah,
it's dense with that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Last week after we played it, I had the thought that, and this may sound a bit cynical, but I was wondering if this is related in some way to mobile games.
Yeah.
Which, in hindsight, I don't really think anymore.
It's because of the retro mechanics, right? That made you
exactly. And these, like they have these short moments of like happy, colorful gameplay mechanics. Right. Which is sort of similar to mobile gaming, but this is like way more well done.
But also, there's no like microtransactions or any of that shit. Like, which I associate with mobile.
Should I have told you about the skins that we could buy for INDIKA?
Oh, we can? Yeah, but that's more like... No. Look, that's like...
Sorry, they aren't, but...
they aren't. Okay. Because it would not have surprised me, because people got to get paid, right?
The idea of skins for a nun is just ridiculous.
Yeah, beach outfit, obviously.
Yes,
like, you know, you got to get paid, man.
That's fantastic.
It's like, you know, moving to Kazakhstan cost us a pretty penny, you know? We got
Yeah. So here's INDIKA in an Iron Man suit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. As long as people, we're living in a finite physical reality. If that is what it takes for them to keep making games like this, go for it.
Absolutely. And I would have enjoyed it.
But you were talking about mobile games.
So what mobile games do really well is keep people's attention, right? And there was, I mean, you put it much more clearly than I thought it at the time, but I think that was what I was getting at. That right, exactly. These moments of colorful, interactive, interesting gameplay.
Yeah.
Just keep our attention.
It's true, yeah. It's that whole dopamine mill, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, I want to see more lights go off and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's so, I don't know. I hope they make more games, these guys. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I was a little too negative on them after the game because finding out that we didn't really have any alternative path frustrated me a bit.
I understand.
But in hindsight, I really enjoyed it as well. I think the main criticism I have is that I wish that there were more, or the puzzles they had were more difficult, because they didn't really interrupt the gameplay. You said the game was well paced, and I feel like it could have been a little less well paced to give me a bit of a moment of really engaging my mind, not only with the philosophical stuff, but also with the purely gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, maybe where you have to actually put it down for a while and think about it.
Yeah, and instead I have to turn around and place a ladder at the other wall, and then I climb up that ladder, and then that's the puzzle.
Yeah, I agree. It's a totally fair criticism.
In this way, it was probably better for the stream because I didn't spend hours upon hours.
I mean,
puzzles,
there's that. Well, sometimes people enjoy watching others
despair.
suffer. Also, people were quite helpful, when we did get stuck a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's fun. But it's also, you can easily finish this game in one sitting.
Yeah.
But I would, if they bring out, as I said, if they make that whole big game that's more mechanical and stuff, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Just please put actual RPG mechanics. Like, that's the thing. On meter games, I'm gonna let you fool me once, but fool me twice, not doing it. Like, if you can't make that same joke again about the RPG mechanics being fake.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that wouldn't work. You have to come up with something else.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good long discussion at the end of the last our playthrough. What do the points mean?
Oh yeah, I got really into it like a sucker, and eventually, I think Don Solarian pointed out that I think you're overinterpreting this. Yeah, no shit, but that's what we do here.
Yes, that's what we do. But if they do it again, then the discussion becomes, the points are meaningless. Like
the discussion becomes, how long does Steam give me a refund? Like, that's the discussion I'm gonna have.
Wow. Okay, harsh words there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in hindsight, I've enjoyed my time with it. So
so we would recommend it. Would you say that?
Yeah.
I guess if you're into Nun's bespoke theological Russian stuff that's also extremely uncomfortable sometimes and about trauma and mental illness, yes, you should probably check out INDIKA.
Yes.
Anyway.
And we have a game for you.
It cannot look like my duty. What if there's something important in it?
Open it. See for yourself.
No.
What's in it?
Reading someone else's letter is a greater sin than not delivering it.
Greater? How much greater?
Twice as much. I don't know.
Interesting. So, not delivering 2 letters is the same as reading 1. What about stealing? Pocketing a ruble, for example. Is that worse?
Worse.
How much worse?
This is nonsense. You can't compare such things.
Why not? The priest imposes a different penance for different sins.
You know what I just remembered? I think we talked about Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah, which, by the way, has an announcement for a new game, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that what you wanted to say?
No, but that's probably why it's in my mind at the moment. That had a monk moment, or a monk...
Great.
Like,
okay. New segment on the show, monk moment. Go. What was the monk moment in Kingdom Come Deliverance?
Yeah. So you play a commoner and you sort of get mixed up in a whole lot of medieval lord
shenanigans
business, yes. And somewhere in around the beginning of the 3rd part of the game, or the third, I guess, of the game, you get sent to a monastery, and then you play for like a few hours. You just
Play as a monk.
You play a monk.
Cool.
And
then you realize this sucks, and you have to get hatch a plan to get out.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to get up at like 5 every morning, and it's terrible.
Yeah, just like INDIKA, you realize this sucks. This oh god, I don't want to carry water
you
all
have
day.
to literally spend a few minutes just sitting in the main, what is it called, like the ship of the monastery, the chapel,
The mass hall.
just listen to monks drone on and sing and pray, and
Yeah, nice. Maybe you can calm down a bit, you know,
I mean,
from your hectic RPG life.
yes, they do a really good job at creating this monastery, but it also, like, being a monk when you want to beat stuff with your sword sucks.
Unless you're a dope Shaolin monk and stuff, and you learn how to fight. But
no.
yeah, okay. I mean, honestly, I don't quite know what I want out of my weird monk simulator RPG, but I know I want something.
Okay, it is like you are playing The Name of the Rose for like 2 hours.
Yeah, see, now I'm all there for it. I mean, that's pushing all the buttons. Because I was saying that's kind of what I want, right?
I know.
Yeah. But okay, that's for a future project.
Yes. I will prepare a playthrough where we can start at the monastery moment and end at when we're done with that.
Maybe we should do that. But yeah, in any case, you like Dragon's Dogma, but you didn't like it as much as 20-year-old game Gothic 1, and but it reminded you of it, sort of. So you started playing it.
Yes, and actually the first RPG I ever played was Gothic 2, and
a formative experience for many out there, I believe,
and still one of my favorite RPGs of all time. But I never played one for a multitude of reasons. And so I finally went back and played it, and that was a very interesting experience. And before I dive into that, I will say, you said news, and I forgot about that, but they are actually remaking Gothic 1.
Oh, yeah?
And
when was this announced? This past week?
So I think they announced it in 2020 or 2021.
And who is doing it? Like Piranha Bytes? That's the name of the original studio, right? Am I wrong?
Yes, that is the name of the original studio.
But they went under at some point, I think.
They are currently in the process of going under.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was announced that Gothic 1 will be remade.
Exactly. And the way
part of the original creators are involved.
Yeah. I do know that they secured the original composer of Gothic.
Oh, wow.
And they, I believe, also try to hire the original voice actors. I don't know how much of the developing team is the same.
Are they going to really stick to the original Gothic 1, or is it like a reimagining? Is it just like up-resing and, you know?
That is the question, because when they announced it in the form of a demo, but like a very, very early pre-alpha demo.
So there is a playable demo of remade Gothic 1?
Yes.
Did you play it?
I did play it at the time.
Right.
And it was like the first half hour of the game, maybe.
And it's exactly like Gothic 1?
No.
Okay.
It felt similar, but they did some changes. If I recall, I mean, it's been 3 years, but I recall that they changed the combat system a little, which might be a good idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Throw that shit out. It's the most confusing thing ever.
Yeah,
it did not hold up.
Yeah. Even if you go... the first thing I did in Gothic was spend an hour figuring out how to actually play it, because the controls are so confusing and weird.
Yeah, and you just die to stupid raptors like 5 times because your guy does nothing, because the control scheme is obtuse, and you have to like hold control and use left, right arrow key to like swing your sword or something.
Yeah, not even die to raptors. I couldn't figure out how to loot a chest.
Oh yeah, that's also challenging. That's true, yeah.
Yeah, they have a 2-button loot system where you have to, as you said, press control and then also press W, which is insane.
It's just, I mean, from a different time, right? Back then, the sort of language for RPGs of what, we've got the conventions weren't established yet, right? And it's also, for some reason, I think it was in a time where they still sort of expected you to maybe not have a mouse, maybe because it's keyboard playable, right, without a mouse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which, if you play early Quake or Doom or whatever, that's, you turn on with the keys, with the arrow keys, right? There's no strafing because, like, moving around while mouse look as active was not standard.
Yeah, it's just, understandable, but they figured a slightly better version out in Gothic 2, which is the one that I got to play.
Yeah.
So I was familiar with that. And also in Gothic 1, I don't know, I did some very light modding to make it work on a modern PC, and it might be the case that I was able to use the Gothic 2 controls in Gothic 1, and the reason for that might be the mods. I don't know, but it worked a lot better then. But yeah, regarding the remake, so they released this demo, and we're basically just looking for opinions. Is this basically what you want?
Do you want this?
And
so what did people say? Are there reviews for the demo?
Mostly very positive, just generally very happy that they are remaking Gothic. And also, like, lots of small critique posts and ideas for different versions.
Sure.
And yeah, apparently what I didn't know is that they are still working at it, and they aim at a release for late 2024, so this year.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I was surprised as well.
Well, I'm very intrigued. I mean,
And I think they're even planning like early access in August. I might be making that up. I found the website for the Gothic 1 remake. They do not have, as far as I see here, they do not have an official release date, apart from 2024, which I saw.
I mean, that's something.
This website.
I really wonder how this is going to work. Are they going to reuse existing assets? Is it? I mean, I have to imagine it's easier to make a game if you're not starting fresh from whole cloth, right?
Yes, and
but I kind of want them to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they the small parts that we can see here, like they have a version of the mine crawler at the bottom of the page. That looks not entirely different,
right?
But very much different from the original Gothic 1 minecrawler. Just way more detailed, more not monstery, but more
monstrous,
more like
abominable,
almost a little bit like a Zergling. And the StarCraft 2 cinematics. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very exciting. We'll have to keep a watch on this. Would you agree that Gothic is probably the prime jewel of like German RPG making?
Yeah.
It was a German studio, right?
Yeah,
I'm not wrong about this.
German studio and a German publisher. And for the second one, they changed publishers. And Joe Wood is also German, I think.
Yeah. And, well, we don't need to talk about the later Gothic installments in the franchise.
It ends with Night of the Ravens, and then they made a lot of very good mods.
Sure, yeah. And then some stuff happened.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a complete flagship product for German RPG making. Yeah. And or am I missing something? Am I being unfair? Is there any other big RPGs? I know that, like, I'm talking video games now, not TTRPGs. Where probably it's the Black Eye is like the German export.
I don't think anything can, at least for me, nothing can compare to Gothic in that regard.
Yeah, but is there even anything to compare? Is what I'm saying. Are there any other German RPGs? Can you think of any?
I do know that there is an RPG for a video game for the Schwarze Auge.
Oh yeah,
Drakensang, which I played.
Oh yeah, is it any good?
Yeah, I mean, it's been like, I don't know, 15 years maybe.
Okay.
But I remember it as being fun. I never quite, they never really explain how the system works. So you just sort of,
but like,
hope that it works.
Yeah. But that's the authentic TTRPG experience of playing DSA. Yeah.
I mean, they never explain the system in Baldur's Gate either, right? It's just, yeah.
No, but they tutorialize you, right? You
Sure.
do learn it, and they put I think in Baldur's Gate. I'm going to defend the hell out of Baldur's Gate, Vincent. You mean 3, right? Not the old ones.
No, I mean the old ones.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant 3 because there I feel like being pushed through that Nautiloid scene and stuff. You learn the game.
Totally. And they even, I mean, in 3 they even show you literally the dice rolling.
Right.
At least in Drakensang they don't do that.
That's the
German
Drachenstein, Dragonstone.
Das Schwarze Auge, Drakensang is the title in German too, I think.
But, can you say that again?
Drakensang.
Drakensang. Okay.
Yeah, like
It's
dragon
not
song.
not quite Drachen.
No,
Okay.
it's a made-up word.
It's a made-up word. That's okay. But the problem is, real German words sometimes sound like a made-up word.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's confusing. But I forgot what I was going to say. I think I was going to defend Baldur's Gate because you triggered me hard. But I think you're partially right about the old one. No, clearly they did not tutorialize as well. But I think they would occasionally explain the rules to you, but just by dumping a bunch of text on you, and that's not great either.
Yeah, and the way they usually do it is that they hide the fact that they are rolling dice.
Yeah, which the game can do that for you. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And you just need to know that, hey, if that number gets bigger by you putting points in it, then that's better for that number.
Yeah, but even that would have been too much for me as a child. Like, I did not know what the fuck I was doing when I was 11 years old. Yeah. And I would just cast Melf's acid arrow on people because it made cool sounds.
If it works, right?
It didn't, is the thing.
Oh,
Like, I died in the mines every time in Baldur's Gate.
God damn it,
like,
Marius.
I could not get past Mulehi. But it's funny, though, to kind of notice how you grow, right? As a human being, I guess, but also as a player. Because it's like, I don't know, it just, my mind could not comprehend the nuances of, like, tactics and positioning and just what is a saving throw. It's so funny to me how as a child you just sort of filter that stuff out because it doesn't really matter in the end for the whole fantasy of it, right? You just want to kind of explore this magical world where there's danger and opportunity and you kill the evil people in the mines and like all that other stuff, kind of it needs to be there, but you don't need to fully comprehend it not to have fun. But as an adult, oh boy, do things look different.
you need your rules.
Yeah, and you have
and your
like
structure
intense discussions about like which probability distribution is better to use when like you want to accurately simulate a fireball, and like go fuck yourself. I need more of that inner child, I think.
Yes.
Anyway.
Back
to Gothic and the
back
inner
to
child.
Gothic, yes.
Did you play some more? Did you beat it?
I beat it.
Nice.
It wasn't that long, which surprised me. It was about just under 30 hours.
Okay.
Where the second one with Night of the Raven is like around 70 to 80.
Yeah.
And the mods that I played, there are plenty of fantastic mods for Gothic 2.
There's a total conversion as well, right? Which
yeah,
you've played.
And they are fully voiced sometimes, and it's incredible. The two that I played were Legend of Asun, which is German-made, I think. And then there is a Polish mod that is fully voiced in Polish, and I played with German subtitles, not German, English subtitles,
right.
Which worked fantastically. Legend of Metana Arculos.
Yeah, and that is so. I think we've talked about it before, but I cannot hype that enough because I think it's so awesome when people just have this passion project of making a total conversion for a game they loved.
Yeah. So okay, before I talk more about Legend of Metana, it was interesting after playing Gothic 1 going back to Legend of Metana because I didn't realize how much they actually changed the interface, for example.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, I played the whole game. It was overall a fun experience. I don't think I would recommend it for people who aren't already fans of Gothic.
Sure, yeah. Well, maybe they will have the remake to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of things that I really, really love about 2, like the exploration, for example, and the leveling system where you get for every level you get 10 points, learning points that you can then spend on either mana or learning new spells or investing in secondary abilities like thieving stuff.
Right, that's 2 now.
That's 2, yes. And that's all sort of in Gothic 1 as well, but just not as refined.
Right.
And
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and you see that at every opportunity, basically, where a lot of systems that are in 2 are not even there in 1, but they already have the animations for them. For example, alchemy. They have a ton of plants that you can pick up, and most of them just give you healing.
Right.
And just still talking about 1, and you can go to an alchemy table and you can brew your potions, but it's only an animation. Doesn't do anything.
But you get a potion out of it that does nothing? It's just interesting. Okay, yeah. So they had that thought on the team, right?
Yes.
They wanted to put it in there, and it just didn't quite make it, and they had to push the game out, which makes sense for a debut game.
100%. And I also feel like the exploration, for example, is also in there. And they designed the map to have areas that you can explore. They just didn't get to fill them with anything.
Sure, but I mean, me remembering, because I played Gothic 1 actually a long time ago, and that was my first introduction to the series, and I do remember like there being some exploration in the sense of, you get to go to other environments and figure stuff out, right? Just going from the main camp to like the new camp and stuff and exploring that, right? Those locations are all fleshed out and you can like figure stuff out. It's like I think what you're referring to, I might call like extensive wilderness exploration, right? Where you just have the open nature and stuff. That's, I think there's not that much in it.
Okay, I will say that the main quest basically leads you to all important locations.
Yeah.
But sure, on the way there, you can explore the world, and it's not like there's no exploration, and there's plenty of that. It's just
it's a smaller scale,
in
right?
Gothic
Everything.
2, and every corner there's something to find.
Yeah.
And in Gothic 1, I often found areas where it seems like there should be something like. Going to the orcs, there is like a how do you call that? Like a
barrier?
No,
palisades.
There's a cliff, and there's like a small indentation into the cliff, and you can squeeze through that and find a campfire.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like somebody was there for a while and spent some time there. There's just nothing to loot, nothing to interact, nothing at all. It's just, okay, there's a campfire burning still.
Yeah.
And
one can only wonder what happened there.
Yeah, there are plenty of these locations where it just feels like they didn't quite get to finish that part of the game.
Yeah.
But then...
Nowadays, if that was in BG3, they'd have like a bunch of notes there that you can read. And,
like they did have in 2.
Right.
So
yeah, it's true. They did have
it's
that.
Definitely, it feels like it's like 85% of the game they wanted to make. And then in Gothic 2, they figured out how to make all the things they had made in Gothic 1 work for them. So they made 110% of the game they wanted to make. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, maybe now with the remake, they can really realize their vision, their original one.
I hope so, yeah. Because for all the bad things I just said, it's still, especially for me, as a Gothic fan, it's a great game.
Yeah. That comes through, Vince. Nobody thinks you're being a negative Nancy about Gothic. Don't worry.
the only really bad part is the final fight. That is terrible. But apart from that...
yeah, but that's rough in many games.
Yeah, but great voice acting, a solid voice acting, interesting story. It's a super cool world still. Every time I enter it, I find myself entranced by just the story they wove there.
I think Gothic has like a special place in my mind as well, but it's hard to put down exactly why. I mean, it does all the RPG stuff correctly, right? But it's also, I remember when I played it, the tone of the world is sort of a little bit different, I think, from other Western RPGs, maybe. Like, because I have one scene in mind. I think this was in Gothic 1. You might even recognize this now, but there's like this part where you go to the new camp. And it's about like, I guess, slavery or whatever. And there's a rice farmer there or something, and he has lots of people that he's basically bullying into harvesting rice. And there's also a guy there, I think, working for him, who's rumored to be like a super tough guy who's like a great fighter and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you need to find like skill trainers in this game, and he's like one of the trainers, and he can like train you and stuff. And then you can go to him and he will ask you, okay, but why do you want to learn to fight? And then you get like conversation options, right? And there's an option for, because I want to like defend myself and stuff. Or you can say, because I want to fucking kill the rice slaver. And me being a dumb child, well, not dumb, but like slightly naive maybe, or thinking I can game this. I'm like, yeah, clearly he wants to hear that I want to defend myself and stuff. And then you pick that option and the guy tells you, oh, well, then you should just find someone who can teach you how to run, because that's the best defense, and just run away and you don't need my help. And then the game is just like, okay, done. You're done now. You're not going to learn this now because, the guy won't talk to you anymore. He, doesn't take you seriously.
Yeah.
And you just, why did you lie? Like, and I really learned that lesson as a child. Like, if that's what you like, because clearly I wanted to learn to fight to fuck up the slaver guy, because he wouldn't let me leave, and I wanted to leave, and then I reloaded a save game, and then but it's still, right? It's still, it was a very satisfying and insightful experience to me. But that kind of, how would you describe that? That like, the slightly rough but also disillusioning tone is something I associate with the Gothic series.
Yeah. I always compare it in my head to Oblivion, because that came out around the same time.
Yeah.
And
that's true, actually.
Oblivion almost, it feels a little silly at times. Well, not only at times. It feels a little silly most of the time.
I mean, sometimes it wants to be silly,
Yes,
right? And I'm
definitely.
fine with it doing that. But you probably also mean when it's not trying to be silly.
Yeah, it's when it's trying to be earnest and serious, it's not really getting there. And I feel like Gothic is always at that level.
That's great. Thank you, Vincent. I think I just learned something, because I feel like that's the perfect word for what I was trying to get at, that I feel like Gothic has a serious tone, but like without failing at being serious. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to hit that. Because it doesn't mean that you can't have humor in your game. Actually, if you have no humor at all, it seems so unrealistic and over the top serious that it's almost like a self-parody, right?
Yeah.
But it's what actually is serious. Like, that's a weird thing to define.
Yeah. But the weird thing for Gothic for me is then that they hit that so perfectly that it feels real. Even as a more than 20-year-old game now, I get sucked up into that world because the characters act in a way that makes sense for them. That, right, they are basically living in a fantasy, almost apocalyptic world where monsters are everywhere and death is around every corner, and it feels real. So you want to be involved, you want to survive, right? They don't even. It's also super interesting. The main quest of the game in the beginning is basically just survive. They don't do the Oblivion, for example, thing where you very early on get a quest to save the world.
You're the chosen one and you have to save the world. Gothic does not do that.
In Gothic,
you're fucked, and now you can survive if you're clever.
You start the game the same way that everybody else starts this game in the mine, where they are thrown in as a convict, and they have to figure out a way to survive. In the first cutscene, you get beaten up.
Yeah. You are special only if you do special things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you turn out to be special because you're kind of at the right time, at the right location in the right time at the right time, because you are the only one that has connections to all 3 camps.
Sure.
And all the other ones are already settled into their individual camp.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get stronger and learn magic, and then eventually you become
because
sort
of training and because of what you do, though.
Exactly.
I think that's different, right?
Yeah. But you have to earn it.
Yes, builds character.
Which is
goddamn millennials, play some Gothic.
Yes,
I'm a millennial myself.
Like
I'm just.
It's also the earning part is something that Gothic does so well too, because the way the skill system works, and it's not as pronounced in Gothic 1, I think, as it is in Gothic 2, is that you regularly find enemies that will beat you to shit.
I feel like we've talked that point to death,
yes,
because I totally agree, and but it's the whole Oblivion does that as well. The whole and all the Bethesda games. I think the whole scaling with your level of the entire world. So in Morrowind, the fucking cliff racer will fuck you up as much at level 2 as it does at level 20.
Yeah, and eventually you find plenty of bandits who, for some reason, have glass
armor,
and dragon bone armor and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's been memed to death as well, I think. But thankfully there are mods that can fix that.
Yeah. No, and in Gothic you find a wolf and it fucks you up.
Yeah.
And then
later you fuck it up.
Exactly, and then it brings friends, and then it fucks you up again. But then a little later you get stronger again, and then you can even fight a group of wolves. And it's just, that's really cool.
But I really like what you said with the serious bit, and also this whole that therefore the world seems real. It's almost like the same thing, right? Because what do people mean when they say something is serious, right? It's the opposite is like not serious. It's like children who are playing pretend, right? Like we fight each other, but it's not serious. Yeah, because it's not real, right? There's no like you say things, but they refer to nothing or just fictional things in your head, right? And but that's sort of fiction being serious is sort of what it all wants to be, right? Because Harry Potter or whatever, they want to make you believe that that's a real world and not just words on a page that refer to nothing, right? And that's sort of the best thing you can hope for, I guess, if you make any kind of fiction to convince people that it's real, that it feels real.
And also, I'm now thinking about, like, I feel like we're currently living in an age of serious movies and serious TV shows that are trying to be serious.
Yeah,
but
they're trying to be serious, right? Yeah.
Almost go too far and turn serious into grim.
Like, what are you thinking? Can you be more specific? Do you mean like the Joker movie? Because that's what my mind goes to that when you say that.
Yeah, for example.
I like that, by the way, but I also see what you mean.
Yeah, it's sort of almost depressing.
Yeah,
I feel like there was something else that I watched recently that I can't remember now. I will keep you updated.
But that's the thing, right? Being serious doesn't have to be depressing. Because Gothic wasn't depressing. It's frustrating at times, but then when you get better, it feels so rewarding.
Yeah, and it's not grim. It's not.
It doesn't have a cynical worldview at all.
Yeah, exactly. And it's.
Yeah, we need more Gothic in our lives.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the A Dungeon About podcast. We record live, usually every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central European Time on Twitch, twitch.tv/HeMakesMePlay_live. You can also watch some of our Let's Plays and other videos we create on the He Makes Me Play YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@HeMakesMePlay. And you can also follow us on Twitter @makes_play. Thanks everyone. See you next time.